Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Wild Bunch Talk Show. Today, I have a special guest. He is a coach, he is a mentor, he is a father, and most importantly, he's a Christian.
Amen.
Coronado coach, Kurt Hines. Say what's up, coach.
Not much, man. Blessed to be here. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, he's a guy I've wanted to meet for a while. I love the way he coached, the way he mentors his kids, and just the way he goes about life. So let's get into it. Get into it. So first off, I just want to talk. Just how'd you get into coaching into football, and like where have you coached before you came to Coronado?
Yeah, I got into coaching as soon as I realized my acting and modeling wasn't going to work out. I'm clearly kidding there. No, I was playing football in college in New Hampshire, Division III, and one of my professors came up to me and asked me if I would be willing to volunteer for a special needs flag football team. Never thought about coaching. Played from second grade through college. Loved it. Never thought about coaching. So I had an experience with a young girl, sixth grade, on the football field about 4 yards away, just tossing the ball to her underhand. And she dropped it 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, whatever it was. That first time she caught it, her eyes just lit up. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was a paradigm shift. I was like, dang, why have I never thought about coaching before? So graduated from college, started teaching for 2 years. My wife and I got married at 22. So young kids, I had kids right out of the gates. And reached out to a local high school where I was teaching. And just said, hey, I want to volunteer. I'm willing to carry the water, hold a shield, do whatever you need to do. And it just so happened they were looking for a head coach for the freshman program. Mm-hmm. So kind of baptism by fire, got into it, and made a lot of mistakes. And that's not like a humble brag. Like, I made a ton of mistakes. Like, learned a lot, like you do in life with those mistakes. But was there for 7 years and loved everything about it. I was blessed to coach under a man that knew football and knew people and cared about both. And after my 7th year there, I got a call from the head coach in the town we were living in. And he won't see this, so I'll be very honest. And he said, hey, tired of coaching against you. I want you to come coach with us. And that's the only reason I left Souhegan High School was to have a chance to coach in my own town. After 2 weeks, I went home and told my wife I was done. I was like, I'm going to honor my commitment, but this guy's a jackwagon. He was just didn't like the way he treated kids at all, just at all. But like I said, was going to honor my commitment. Finished the year out, and Bedford High School, was a brand new high school in New Hampshire, had a vacancy for head coaching position. Mm-hmm. So my wife said, apply for that. And I said, Jill, I've been a head freshman coach for 7 years, varsity assistant for a few weeks. I'm not qualified, and I wasn't, but for whatever reason, God opened that door for me and
gave you a chance.
Became the head coach at Bedford High School. My first year, we set records in the state of New Hampshire for getting our teeth kicked in more than any other school in the history of football. I kid you not, at the end of every game, when you walk through, when you guys beat the snot out of someone at Lincoln, mm-hmm. you still shake hands and say, hey, good game.
Of course.
We were so bad, no one even lied to us. They just looked around and said, hey, beautiful field, great stadium. I'm like, man, we're that bad, no one's going to lie.
They compliment everything else except for the game.
Exactly, except for my coaching. Like, man, great shoes, great stadium.
Love the jersey.
Yeah, exactly. There was a moment, I'll make this quick, but there was a moment in my first year of coaching where it really solidified my why. We get our teeth kicked in every week. Like literally every game was close until kickoff type thing. Mm-hmm. And we ended up having a coaches meeting. I ended up having a coaches meeting. And after we talked about the offense and the defense and the off-season plans and special teams, I said, hey, guys, I'm going to open a can of worms. I had 3 coaches on staff that were Division I athletes, 2 years before, so real young. And 2 of them were captains at the University of New Hampshire. So I said, I'm not going to change just for the sake of it, but we know how our season went. What's something you'd like to see me do differently as a coach? And I wanted honest feedback. And it was quiet for about 40 seconds. And then my offensive line coach, who he and I are best friends now. However, at the time, we butt heads a lot. He saw football as just X's and O's, and for me, it was a lot more than that. Is a lot more than that. But it was quiet for about 40 seconds, and he goes, I don't think the kids respect you. And I could feel myself getting red. I was like, all right, well, give me an example. Do they talk back? Do they talk behind my back? Do they leave the weight room a mess, the locker room a mess, whatever it is? And he says, no, I just don't think they respect you. I'm like, give me one example, like something I can work on. He's like, they're not afraid of you. And it just like that, all this peace came over me. I'm like, those are 2 completely different things. And he's like, well, I think a head coach should be feared. I said, I completely disagree. I said, for me, when a young man has a parent pass away, or gets a young woman pregnant, or is coming out of the closet, or whatever it is that life's throwing at them, if they're afraid of me, they're not going to come to me. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to be a vessel to serve them. So we agreed to disagree on that. And he stayed on staff, and I wanted him on staff because he's a great coach. So first year we lost every game. Second year we won 3 games. Third year we went to the playoffs. My last 4 years we had, as I mentioned, off camera, 144 young men in the program. Went to the state championship 3 out of the last 4 years there. And not I, but we had built a powerhouse.
Hold on. You said you had 144 people
in our program.
Football program?
Yeah. Wow. And coach in New Hampshire, that was a big thing. Actually, even here, Coronado, we got 68 kids. I think 64 kids right now. So once again, it was collectively all of us. Young men buying in, the family supporting us, the administration not getting rid of me after year 1 of losing every game.
That's what I'm saying. So you was able to sustain that number of players in a program while losing like that?
Yeah, and for me, that is, we talk all the time in the coaching world, like moral victories. Moral victories are great.
That's an accomplishment there.
For a week or two, but when you're getting your teeth kicked in and week out, we were building something special, and the guys were buying into it.
So one more question: was it freshman, JV, varsity like it is out here, or what is the levels like out there?
Yeah, so it's 3 levels. My first year as head coach, we only had a varsity and JV team because we didn't have seniors yet. They were phasing the school in. So that was part of the reason we lost. But honestly, before I go on to what we achieved, my playbook my first year as head coach was like this. It was just everything. And we sucked at everything. And it wasn't the kids' fault. It was mine. I was trying to do way too much. So once I started to humble myself a little bit or a lot, and that walk up those bleachers after every loss, when you had, and we had great support from the fans, so we had packed house every night. It was that Green Mile walk, just that walk of death, and it was a huge growing curve for me.
I want to applaud you on that because that's one thing that a lot of coaches do struggle with is they always come in with this big old, I want to do so much of this, but then when you get to it, it's like, man, you got to just sprinkle it down. So
keep the simples.
It's like,
And one of the best analogies for me, and I'm not a guru in any sense, never have been, never will be, in anything in life. But I had listened to one of my college teammates. His father was a coach in New Hampshire for years, and he spoke at a clinic one time. I'm not a golfer at all. But he talked about golfing. He said most golfers carry around a bag of 12, 15 clubs, but they have their 3 or 4 go-tos. Whether it's the 7, I'm not a golfer, whatever it is. And for me, I was like, that's what I could do with our offense. You can run the same dang play. I'm preaching to the choir, but you can run the same dang play out of multiple formations and sets. It looks different to the defense, but it's the same play, and really started to shrink things down a little bit. We continue to build something special there. Going into, at the end of my 7th season, where we had lost in the state championship by 6, I thought, this is our home. Like, I'm not moving anywhere. This is where we're staying. And then our oldest daughter called. She had come out to San Diego State, and she said, I'm pregnant. She'd gotten married. She said, I'm pregnant. My heart leapt. I was like, yes. Then I was like, oh, no. Because I knew we didn't want to be grandparents on the other side of the country. So leaving that football program was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things coaching-wise. Coaching against my son was up there, and speaking at a young man's funeral that took his life. But as you guys know, coaching it's passion. It's something that you pour countless hours into, more than anyone who's never been in our shoes before will ever realize. No parent will understand. Most players won't understand until they become coaches. So moved out here to San Diego, was at Christian for 2 years, and just felt the call to be, we were winning there, and loved the kids, loved the great majority of the coaches, I'll say that. But felt the call to be a head coach again, and the opportunity opened up at Coronado, and now in my 7th season there.
That's a lot of courage to do, though, I feel like, because you built a program from scratch to where you got your face kicked in every year, and then you built it to be, you feel me? Then you got it to be a state championship team back to back to back to back, and then to leave the coast that you lived your whole life to come all the way to San Diego and you're doing the same thing again, building over, like, you feel me? You guys went to school, which is successful, became your own head coach again at a different school, and now you're building it back up again. Not a lot of people can do that.
No,
one more question. Right? He said he went back to back to back to what?
Yeah, because his last 4 years before he left to come to San Diego, he went to state 4 times in a row.
Well, 3 out of the 4.
Oh, he went to 3 out of the 4.
3 out of the 4 years we went to the state championship.
Still impressive.
Disclaimer: we didn't win a single one of those 3, but we went 3 out of the 4.
Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, right.
Buffalo Bills.
Well, and it's funny. I talk to our team often about teams. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm born and raised East Coast. All my family are Patriots fans.
My dad loves the Cowboys, man.
Dad's a good man.
Man.
Dad's a good man.
We gotta keep that part of the podcast.
But we talk about resiliency. Is to get there, whether it's high school level, collegiate, or the NFL, to get to the big show, and not win, and then to get there again and not win. Yes, losing sucks. And if you ever get comfortable losing, you're going to hang up the whistle or the cleats or whatever it is. However, the challenge of starting something new, building something out in New Hampshire, gave me the confidence to come out here and say, all right, I can do that again. Have I done that yet again? No, I have not. But we're in the process of it.
Yeah. And then one thing I kind of want to go back off into is you talked about how you had a playbook really huge, and you like the kids. Not everyone can really comprehend the X and O's like that, so you had to make it simple. So the first week we had Coach Montali from Cathedral. He told us, it's not about the X's and the O's. It's more the Jimmys and the Joes, And there's just knowing them, and then you talked about being the feared versus being a love coach. I'm reading The Prince by Machiavelli, so I'm kind of getting how that goes. But like I said, if you're a love coach, they come to you. There's something's going on in their life. You feel me? Like if someone's grandparent just died, or they are getting a young girl pregnant, they can't talk to a feared coach about that and be able to perform on the coach like they want them to perform. So when like a feared coach thinks like, hey, what's going on? Like you're not doing what you're doing. You see why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I kind of get the dilemma, but I do think the approach you're taking, I think you're doing it the right way.
I appreciate that. A little shout out to a book that I get no money for, but have you guys read Joe Ehrman's book, Inside Out Coaching? So this guy, I think he's probably in his late 70s or 80s now, is in the Hall of Fame at Syracuse for lacrosse and football, ended up playing for the Colts for years. But in his book, so these are his words, but it changed the way I teach and coach. But he said there are two types of coaches. Doesn't matter the sport, the level. There's transactional, like a bank transaction, where I'm going to pour into you, coach, because you're a stud, and it'll make me look good as an OC or a DC or whatever it is. And then I'm going to ignore the fat little redhead stepchild, or I'm going to ignore the kid that can't put his cleats on right, or whatever it is. The transactional coaches who do it just for their own gain. And then he said they're the transformational coaches, the coaches that understand that whether it's a starter in your program or fourth string or whatever it may be, that every young man and or young woman has value, and to coach with the same intent and the same passion, regardless of whether they're a starter or not. That's not only, in my opinion, going to build a successful program, preaching to the choir once again, but it's going to change lives here and now and 10 years down the road.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I wrote it up there. Like I've seen it. I can see it, like the way you coach and the way you talk to your kids. You take a player's relationship type approach. Of course you care about football, but you're more so invested in mentoring kids. So I just want to know, where does that stem from? Is it come from you, just growing up, being a Christian, your father coached you or somebody? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, a little bit of all of those things. I think my faith drives everything I do. Mm-hmm. And as much as my faith means everything to me, I'm a messed up sinner who has more flaws than I wish I could admit. Raised by two blue-collar, hard-working parents. Lost my father about a year and a half ago. It wasn't until he passed that I realized what a servant leader he was to my mother, to our family, to the community at large. But it was a math teacher in 7th grade. Now, I teach elementary school. I love teaching. Never been a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination. And I hated math. In 7th grade, I had a teacher, Mr. Nicholas, who would sit on the corner of his desk every class for about 10 minutes and just talk about life. Kurt, how's football going? So-and-so, how's this going? Whatever. And I remember sitting there in 7th grade like, this guy cares. Like, he cares about me. And it'd be a Hollywood story, but I then became a mathematician and was lighting the world on fire. I'm still not good at math. I'm still not good at math. But that moment, or those moments where I was like, he cares about me, led me to want to become a teacher. And wanting to become a teacher led me to that path of becoming a coach. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think all great coaches are teachers. Just without a book in our hands, we get a whistle and a playbook.
Okay, and then kind of going off that, when you grow up like that and become the way you do, you kind of, for all Christian coaches I've kind of had, they always talked about, like, what is your why to their players and stuff like that. So before I went to Lincoln, I went to Horizon Christian Academy. I'm not sure if you know my coach, Chris Johnson, but
know of him.
You know of him, but he was a Christian coach, and he always asked us, like, what is our why for doing what we do? Because no matter what's going on in our lives for football, as long as we have a why, we have something that drives us. So first, it's a two-part question. First, I kind of want to know what your why is, and then two, kind of how do you implement that into your kids? Because that's big. It's not even just for football. Football is it's like that. It's a short phase in your life. Then you got the whole rest of your life. So your why just can't be football, because once that's over, what are you gonna do with yourself? So I kind of want to know what do you do with your kids for that?
Yeah, I mean, and how often do we see professional athletes in all different walks of life who that is their entire identity, and that comes to an end, whether it's high school, college, or the NFL, or whatever league they're in, and then they go down this path of drug abuse or alcohol or whatever it is, depression. My why, 100% hands down, has become the greatest blessing I can be to those I coach and coach with. Earlier in my career, I thought, man, I got to pour into these young men, and then I realized that the assistant coaches on our staff, whether they've been coaching for 1 year or 30 years, sometimes they're coaching for 30 years under a jackwagon who mistreats kids and abuses kids, maybe not physically, but mentally and verbally. My why is to bless, serve, and empower as many people as I can. Mm-hmm. How that comes across, I'm always reminded of, how often do we hear people say, oh, sports build character. No, sports don't build character. That's a load of crap. Sports reveals character, and sports only build character if coaches intentionally lead and model that character. You would never go coach into a game as a defensive coordinator without a game plan. Sunday night, if not Saturday afternoon, you have a game plan for the next week. Yeah. And I think too many coaches go into coaching a season and a week and from week to week to week without intentionally building character in young men. And I won't mention his name, although one of my assistant coaches loves your show and said he's definitely going to be watching this as well. We had a conversation Thursday after our team meal. He just asked to talk for a little bit and shared a conversation that we had last week and how it has already changed him. And he's like, Coach, you're not just leading young men, you're leading the coaches also. So it comes back through, I was blessed by parents who love God and live that. I was blessed to coach with some great coaches who did the same thing. And I was blessed to coach with some jackwagon coaches who were horrible, but you learn from them also.
And that's what people don't. I can attest to that, because I have coached behind or under some dude, and you kind of learn. You're thankful for him because you kind of learn what not to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You learn from their mistakes. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I try to teach him to learn from my mistakes. And that's one thing that, as when I was a position coach and just coaching under certain people, you just learn what to do and what not to do. So
yes, and that's what gave me the confidence, Coach. The first time to apply for my first head coaching job, I wasn't qualified. Sometimes now still I'm like, am I the right dude, for this job? But it gave me the confidence because I had been under some coaches that did it really well and some who did a horrible job at it. And I was like, I can do better than that. I can do better than that. And I often say when I go to speak at places, and it's funny to see people's reactions, I will often stand before a crowd, and it doesn't matter the number of people, and say, I don't think there's a greater coach out there than me. And I stand by that. And you can see some people like, all right, who's this cocky SOB? Like, what's he thinking? And I clarify with them is how I define success. Yes, the scoreboard matters. It should matter. If we don't want to win, we shouldn't be in coaching. Mm-hmm. But for me, if I can change a young man's life, if I can help him navigate not just high school, but anxiety and depression and suicide and whatever, all these different things that all of us face to some extent or another, how do you say one coach is greater than another if you are building champions on and off the field?
I feel it. And then, yeah, kind of just talk. The second part was just how do you implement that into kids?
Oh, yeah. Relationships. I had a coach come up to me after I was speaking up in LA a few years back, and he's like, yeah, just what do you do with culture? And I hadn't even looked at his hand yet to see if there was a wedding ring on his hand. Mm-hmm. I said, Coach, are you married? And he goes, I am. I said, what slogan do you have in your bedroom wall? And he looked at me. I said, what do you have? And what T-shirts you and your wife wear that say, relentless or this and that? Those slogans that we throw up in a weight room wall or on a T-shirt, those are great, but it's not our culture. Mm-hmm. It might share what we want our culture to be, but it comes down to not regulations. I think too many coaches want to have all these standards and rules and things players can't do and should do, but they don't build a relationship. This is my first time meeting the two of you, but I have a vested interest now, and I want to see you guys succeed. Mm-hmm. I think when your players know that you will run through a wall for them, they're going to want to run through a wall for you. Yep. When your players know, we had this practice this morning. I'm not going to rat them out. We tell our guys all the time, don't show up to film session without a pad and a pen. Take notes, put that in your locker, and before every practice, what were the last notes I wrote? What do I need to work on? My first step, my read, my back pedal, following through a tackle, whatever it may be. So I, like I do every Saturday, said, stand up if you don't have a notepad. About 11 kids stood up. I had them stand in front of the team. I said, enjoy your long weekend. Have a great, goodbye, and send them home. Didn't tear them down. I did yell a little bit. But the point is, it's a blessing and a privilege to play this game.
It is.
You know, I'm not going to go run you guys. You guys don't deserve to be here right now. You know, and I think you build that culture and you help them find their why by understanding that it's not about us. Football is not about me as a coach. It's not about you as a player. It's about collectively what can we do together to achieve more than any of us could ever do alone.
Mm-hmm. And I can tell, like, a lot of your values, too, come from just being a Christian. And then I just want to know, being the open Christian you are, how hard is it to try to implement being a Christian coach at a public school?
It's
because I want, like, is there like any limitations that hold you back from doing what you want to do? Because I know what it's like, because we both went to Christian school.
So the reason I can see it totally reason, because you remind him and me of our high school coach.
Good looking dude.
Huh?
He must have been a good looking dude.
Just all of that, you know what I'm saying? All of that. But you remind us a lot of our high school coach, and that's not me. Just going through.
The mic won't pick it up.
Just hearing you talk and everything is kind of like just hearing our old high school coach talk. So yeah, I just saying I can see why he is saying everything.
I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there are definitely limitations at a public school. One of the first questions I asked our administration was, "Can I pray with the team?" And it was a definitive no. And I realized, all right, well, before every game, we'll have a moment of silence. My team knows what my faith means to me. We do pray together as a team. Not everyone gets in that circle, but we do it. That's a hill I'm willing to die on. Mm-hmm. You know, it's one of those things I'm not looking for it. I don't think any administrators from Coronado will watch this, but it's important to me. You know, and I had a young man that came into our coach's office just a few days ago, struggling with some things, and I asked him, I said, "Do you believe in God?" And he goes, "I don't, coach." Yeah. I said, that's all right. And I still gave him some advice and counsel on what to do. Often I'll have those conversations and with parents and our players, and several times they'll say, "Well, what would you have said if I said yes?" I said, "I would have prayed with you." And I've had 2 out of 5 families so far at Coronado that say, "Well, will you pray with us?" They said they didn't believe in God, but there's still something there. Religion, faith, I don't consider myself religious. I'm a Christian. I follow Jesus Christ. I don't follow a certain church.
I'm the same way. You feel me? Because I went to Horizon for a couple of years, went to Lincoln, and then I went to college at Dort. It's a Christian private school too. So then, like, people think I'm like heavy religious, like heavy right wing and stuff like that, and like it's not even like that. I'm a believer. I'm more spiritual than I am religious. You know, I just believe in God. I follow. You know, I just follow the footsteps He has in front of me.
Yeah, amen. And what are the greatest coaches? They're servants. They serve their players. They pour into their players. What was Jesus? Jesus was a servant. He washed the feet of his disciples. Mm-hmm. I teach at Christian elementary school, so I teach Bible every day. Go to Coronado, I drive over the bridge there, and I just do this big circle from Chula Vista, El Cajon to Coronado. But that's our job as coaches. You know, I tell our staff all the time, if the only thing we do is help them win games, we're failing them miserably. We have to help them win in life, and it sounds great, but you do that by pouring into them, building relationships. One of the young men that I sent home this morning, great young man, just made a stupid mistake. The text he sent me afterwards, I was like, yes, he gets it. He apologized. He owned up to it. It was no excuse. And I told him, I said, you let your team down. You're better than that. Have a great weekend. Be ready for your greatest week ever. I think it comes down to, you know, I also think as far as Christianity, Coach, I think sometimes we Christ was so loving and kind. Well, yeah, but he also flipped over tables in the temple. When he saw something wrong, he addressed that. Yep. He didn't just watch things happen. He was a leader through and through. So there are limitations on what I can do. I push those all the time. And I do it not because I think every great person has to be a Christian, but I believe that there's a great value in living a Christian life. And for me, being a Christian means that I realize where my strength comes from, and I realize that I have been blessed with the power to share with others.
Have you ever had an instance where you had a player that was like a Muslim or something like that, and they had to like pray like totally different?
I have, and actually in all places in Bedford, New Hampshire, we're one of the least diverse places ever. I joke around about it with our son-in-law. I have 3 daughters, 1 son. One of my son-in-laws, I'll give him a shout out from Cleveland, Ohio, Jeremy. He's a twin brother, raised by a single black mother in Cleveland, hasn't met his father to this day. One of the greatest Christians and young men I've ever met. We've learned so much from each other about diversity and life and all that stuff. I've also had a young man that hurt his knee back in New Hampshire. I'm walking off the field with he and his father and said, "Hey, you got to see our trainer. You got to take care of this, get some x-rays done." And I said, "I'll pray for you." his father stopped dead in his tracks. He goes, Coach, we're atheists.
Oh, wow.
And I, being a lot stupider than I am now, said, I'll pray for you too. I thought it was funny. He did not. I thought, all right, I'm going to get an email to the superintendent or the AD. Fast forward 2 years after his son graduated, he sent me this War and Peace length email saying he and his wife had gotten divorced and wants to know where we went to church, and joined us at church and got baptized. Okay. So I think if we can plant seeds as coaches,
I like stories like that.
You know, that's what it's all about. You know, just. I think our job as coaches is take players where they are, meet them where they are, and help them to get to where they never thought they could be. And if we can do that with our young men, we're going to do that with our families and plant seeds all over every school we ever coach at.
And then one thing you said about being servants, that's one thing my high school coach, he always said is before you can lead, you must know how to serve. You know what I'm saying? He always instills that you got to serve. That's why, like, even now as a defensive coordinator, like, you know, I'll walk around, pick up some cones. I don't mind picking up the ladders. You know what I'm saying? Just to you know, still fill in it somehow, pick up some balls.
Pick up trash at the end of the game.
You know what I'm saying? I don't mind nothing like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. And, you know, what we do when we have our team meals, I always say we have 3 young women on the team, lady and the team managers. Ladies eat first, then linemen because they do the majority of the work.
Yep.
Everyone else, and then the captains. Leaders eat last. Yep. And I had said that once, and someone said that's a great book. I haven't even read that book, but I heard it somewhere else. But Leaders Eat Last. I think it shows that if you're in a position of leadership, yes, you have a privilege as a team captain to go out there on a Friday night light and represent your team. You may be interviewed more by the reporters or whatnot, but leadership is all about service.
Yeah. I really applaud you for being that kind of coach in a public school.
I appreciate that. For me, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys too. It's you appreciate when people recognize that, but it's in your DNA. It's just who you are. If the time comes that someone from Coronado says, "Hey, we heard you praying with your team," yes, I am. Yes, we don't force anyone to be there. Yes, I'm praying with our team, and if you want to get rid of me, you can do that.
Is it a rule that you can't, or is it just you can't force it? You know, because we pray with our kids before.
Yeah, that's the thing that we still pray too. We pray before and after the games.
I think it depends on the administration. Now, currently our administration right now, I'm a big fan of them. They're very supportive. That they are very vocal in supporting what we do, from the superintendent to the principal to our AD. So I'm very blessed in that situation. But I think it's such a gray area, you know. And I don't want to get political on this show or any show, but I think in today's day and age, when you can talk about anyone identifying as a cat or a dog or whatever it is, if I get in trouble for praying about Jesus or praying to Jesus, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Okay. And then, so this is something one of the videos that you talked about that I wanted to talk about is talked about kids quitting, you know, and you still support the kid either way if he does quit. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, there was an incident 3 or 4 years ago where a young man, he and his brother played for us. His brother was 1 year older. His brother was a stud. His brother just showed up for everything, gave his all and everything. He's just one of those kids that just came to you as a player before you even coached him day one. You're like, this kid's a stud. His younger brother by a year, also a great kid, but was always 5 minutes late to practice, and was always kind of.
It's always one. It's always
yeah. And it was never really saw him smile at practice, you know. And I always tell our team, and I'm sure most coaches say this, you know, we have a biased opinion. Football is the greatest sport there is in the world, in my opinion.
Team sport.
Team sport, correct.
100% agree.
Correct.
There's no LeBrons in football.
Yeah, exactly. And I tell them, I was like, you know, it's not for everyone. So when you decide it's not for you, do it the right way. Wash your stuff, come in, shake my hand, look me in the eye and say, Coach, I'm not passionate about it. Don't blame you want to focus on grades, because no one's going to go home at 3 and do schoolwork till 10 o'clock.
Or coach ain't messing with you.
Yeah, exactly. So this young man came in one day, and I had never seen him look more timid and afraid, but he had his bag, things were washed, and he just said, Coach, it's just not for me anymore. And you could see him fighting back the tears. I said, hey, sit down for a minute. It was right before practice, about 10 minutes before practice. And he said, well, don't you have to go outside? And it was a great thing to say, I have assistant coaches. I'll be outside on time. Don't you worry about that. And I said, tell me where your heart is. And he started by saying, well, we've always been a football family. And he said, my mom loves football. My dad loves football. My brother loves football. I said, no, tell me about you. Tell me about you. And he goes, I don't like it, Coach. And I looked at him, I said, I'm proud of you. And you saw his whole countenance change. He just breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. And he goes, I was so afraid to come talk to you. I said, well, then shame on me for not letting you know that I respect the heck out of you. And I said, no, I'm always here for you. I said, you did what I think all young men or young women should do is, if you're not passionate about it, don't live your mom and dad's dreams. They had their chance. Live your dreams. And I encouraged him to go find something you're passionate about. Pour your heart and your energy and your effort into something. And it was funny. I asked him when he was leaving, I said, do you mind if I share this with the team and do a little videos? No, not at all. He was excited about that. Posted the video right before practice, went out to practice, talked to the team. I said, hey, this is what happened with so-and-so. Don't you dare let me find out that when you see him in the hallways or around campus that you're not still pouring into him. He's a young man who quit the right way. He's not a quitter. There's a big difference between someone who just quits and someone who decides it's not for him. And I share with the team, I dated a lot of young women before I met my wife. I didn't quit on them. They weren't right for me, and I wasn't right for them. I had a lot of jobs over the years. I didn't quit. I finished the year or whatever it was, finished the contract, moved on to something that was what's right for me. As a coach, I know this is your year one at Lincoln, but Coach, you've been to different schools, and you didn't quit on that. You were called for whatever reason by God or whatever it was to go somewhere else. So the team supported him. I was thrilled about that. Got in my truck after practice, and it had gone viral. I don't know how many retweets.
I remember seeing that clip.
The funny thing was, though, there were a lot of people that would just came at me like, "Great job, you loser! Like your team quitting's okay." And I'll never get into a social media battle with anyone.
You never win.
No, exactly. It's a good friend of mine used to always say, "You're not going to get into a pissing contest with a skunk." So I didn't worry about that. But what I feel like I did do was support him in what he wanted to do and being passionate about that. So I think as coaches, we need to help our players that want to be great in football understand what it requires to be great at football. You've got to go to bed earlier. You've got to study your plays. You've got to be a student athlete. All these things that we know. And when they're not passionate about it, say, hey, this is okay. Don't feel like a failure. This isn't for you, but go find something you're passionate about.
Yeah, because I seen the video recently. I didn't know when I don't know when that happened. Was it a couple years ago?
I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, so for me, I saw that just like a couple of days ago, and just it was another +1 come like that. I've been in the same shoes as that guy's been. Growing up, I started playing football after my 7th grade year, and it's just I wasn't enjoying it really. I didn't think it was for me, and then it was also hard telling my parents I didn't want to play football anymore. Big bro played football his whole life, and it wasn't for me. So I was just doing the basketball thing from then on, and then I didn't really. It didn't take until I got to Horizon, playing basketball, and I realized like what I wanted my why to be, and and for me it was really just to take care of my moms, and I knew the way to do that, go to college, get my degree, get a job. That was only going to take place if I went to college, and I knew I wasn't going to cut. Realistically, I knew I wasn't going to cut it in basketball. So like my sophomore year, I got back into football, and I think I found my passion again. But I think it took me having to step some time away to find that passion for football again. And again, like you said, it's all about finding your why and stuff like that. And even in college, like there's a lot of when you go to college, there's a lot of stuff I didn't want to do, like get up at 5:00 to go work out or just practice in the snow. But what got me up every night, like, hey, I want to take care of mom one day. I gotta go out here at this 5 a.m. Finish this season out, get a degree, yada yada yada. And it's just and people they always ask because I had the option to play a 5th or 6th year for college football, but I didn't want to. Even when I got my degree, I got out. I still love football. I love watching it. You feel me? I watch it every weekend. Wear my Saints jersey. I'm sad most weekends, but
I'm a Cowboys fan. I feel your pain.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't like to go back to it. Quitting it's not always. If you're doing it for the right reasons, it's never wrong. You feel me? And I felt like if my parents forced me to continue to play that, even though I didn't want to, I'd resent it a lot more as I got older, and I probably wouldn't have had the same kind of life that I did now. So I'm really grateful that you taught your kid or your kids and the rest of your team that way. That's how I want to treat my kids or players or other kids I mentor, and
Yeah, no,
that's huge.
And you just said something, Coach, that resonates with me too. At the same time, I think we need to support our young men and what their goals are. That football is not for everyone. I have said to our team before, I say, hey, fill in the blank here. I say, quitting is not, and they all say, an option. I was like, that's the biggest lie also. The world's overpopulated with quitters. And there's a difference between quitting because things are hard. We were in a game last night that, once again, close till kickoff. Yeah, the moral victories come and go. Our guys didn't quit. We did not play well at all. We didn't coach that well at all either. And I'm pointing to myself. But they didn't quit. And I think we have to take pride in the fact that the world's overpopulated with quitters. So walking away from something because you're not passionate anymore, you're not a quitter. You do it the right way. This is a decision I made. It's not because it was tough, not because you weren't starting. I just didn't have the passion to play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
For so many of the other young men and young women that stay with the team, understand that, quitting is an option. When things are tough, quitting is an option. Take pride in the fact that you're not quitting. Take pride in the fact that you keep fighting through this challenge or adversity, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it can be any reason. Like, it's not even like the football team was bad. And we won the Q Bowl. We went to nationals. We were the number one team in the nation. You feel me? No one really had a reason to stop playing, but I just wasn't in it, and I didn't want to have to force myself to do that because I knew I hate myself for doing it. So I felt like it was the right thing to do at that time.
Yeah, I'm not sure you guys have seen the documentary with Tom Brady. I forget the name of the documentary.
Man in Arena?
Yes. But there's one part about, he talks about the Chinese proverb about the farmer, the horse farmer, and he goes through this whole thing, and it's all about perspective, and talks about, well, is this good or bad? And we're all of us, I think, are so nearsighted that when we're in the middle of something, whether it's a successful season, you guys are 10-0 now or 11-0, that's phenomenal. Obviously, congratulations. But perspective is, you're gonna know 3 months from now if that undefeated start of the season so far was a blessing or a curse. For us at Coronado right now, we're struggling to find wins. I think we're 3-5 right now. I don't think we are 3-5 right now. It's painful. It's not a bad thing. I've been in the game long enough as a player and a coach. I understand that we are still creating and building a culture. And I also, for years, I thought culture was, once again, I knew it wasn't as easy as slapping a sticker on a wall. But being at Coronado, where we have the naval base, and it's a revolving door of families coming and going, more than ever, I've realized that culture is a living, breathing organism.
Mm-hmm.
That you have to continue to pour into your coaching staff, your players, to continue to understand that, all right, we're not there. You'll never be there. You've never arrived. And when you win that state championship, you arrived at that season, but you got to get right back on that horse and keep building that perspective of, this is who we want to be. It's something we have to keep feeding and pouring into every single day.
Mm-hmm. And so, I'm not sure if you do anymore, but I heard you have a couple girls on the team.
We do. We have 3 young women on the team. Love them. I'll give shout outs. Amelia is a senior running back and linebacker. Okay. 0 reps last night. She's not that good, but she has the character and the work ethic that if half our guys had, we wouldn't be unstoppable, but we'd be dang good.
You're a tough team to beat.
Yeah, and she understands that her role is not that of a starter, but she's going to help us get better. And the example she has, we have another young woman who is, I hate the word just, but she's just a kicker for us. But she shows up, and she's a multi-sport athlete, so she's in 2 seasons right now with volleyball and football, and another young woman on the team as well. For me, I'm not a fan at all. Another thing I might get canceled for with this, and I'm okay with that. I don't think men should play women's sports.
I agree.
At all. But I fully support if a young woman wants to put herself in a male-dominated sport and say, hey, I want to try to play that, more power to them. Mm-hmm. Because she takes her licks, and I tell our young men, like, you don't ever want to cheap shot anyone, period. Especially your own teammates. But I don't want them going easy on her either, because she's going to learn what it's going to be like in a game.
Light it up. You light it up.
So I'm very proud of their commitment and their passion and the work they put in.
And how did that come about? Like, did the parents come up to you like, hey, I have a daughter, she wants to play for you, though? Like,
sometimes the interesting thing was when I was a head coach in New Hampshire, I had one young woman on the team who just tried out her freshman year, and she was football IQ. Mm-hmm. She was up there. Like, she knew the game, broke her leg riding a mountain bike her sophomore year and just didn't come back out. In the 7 years I've been at Coronado, we've had at least one young woman every year on the team. Which is always it's
great.
It's interesting. Yeah, it is. And some of them have been studs, some not. We haven't had a young woman that has started for our varsity, but have played on our varsity. Have gotten some reps. And yeah, usually it is a parent reaching out to me saying, "Would you allow this? And what will it look like?"
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So and then I don't know how big it is nationally, but I know just for San Diego. Flag football, just women playing football, it's getting bigger now. We have our own little youth leagues. The high schools are doing it now. Do you guys have
Coronado does not yet have a flag football team for girls.
Okay.
Lincoln does?
We do. It's because you guys don't have enough. You don't think you have enough as a sport team? Or
I'm to be honest with you, I'm not sure, Coach. I'm not sure if the interest isn't there yet, or if it may be that I'm not aware of, if the athletic director hasn't been able to find someone who's wanting to coach it yet. But I'm in full support of that, and I actually like that better than the idea of having young women on our team.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, would you rather just start like a girls' flag team for? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that sounds mean saying that. You
No,
know
no,
what I'm saying?
I completely
You know
understand what you're saying.
It's about safety at the end of the day, man. Because football is it's a dangerous sport.
It
man.
is.
It's a very dangerous.
Even if you're not
sport.
trying to hurt nobody, you can get hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a very dangerous sport. And out of the 3 daughters I have, our middle daughter, who's 28 now, she's a beast. She is just a stud. And I think if she had wanted to play football, which none of my daughters did, but if she wanted to in high school, I think she would have been a stud. But still, as a parent in the stands, I don't know if I'd want to see that.
I don't care how
It'd be
good
hard.
my fast my daughter. I wouldn't want her. Nah.
But I mean, yeah, 'cause we understand that football is a beautifully violent and violently beautiful game, and the goal is to hurt the other person. And my wife, my wife and I, we pray together we've been married for 29 years. She's my best friend. We pray together every morning and every night, like clockwork. And every game day, I always pray that we don't, get seriously hurt. And she goes, why don't you just pray that you don't get hurt? I said, well, because it's a violent game. Some people are going to get hurt, and if I can hit the guy across from me hard enough that he packs it in physically, literally, mentally, and just quits on himself or his team, that's the goal.
That's the plus.
Those career injuring. Somebody got to walk off on the stretcher. That's the stuff you don't want.
Yeah.
But,
And we had that 2 Fridays ago. Our starting quarterback broke his collarbone. But it wasn't a cheap hit. Yeah. It was just football, and he and his family understands that this is a bump in the road for him.
It just happens.
Yeah.
It just happens. Okay, so to kind of wrap this up, let's get into legacy. A lot of coaches in San Diego, some of them will be known for having the most wins or the most championships or, might be the smartest offensive coordinator ever. For you, what kind of legacy do you want to leave at Coronado? Or, you might end up being somewhere else. Who knows where God takes you?
2-part question, because I know how you're going to answer his question. I already know what you're going to say. So to add on to his question, would you ever want to move up to a bigger school just to see, you know what I'm saying?
I love that.
Just to see,
yeah,
how far you can, just to feed the competitor. You're still a competitor
yes, sir.
at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So have you ever thought about that?
Yes, I'll answer both parts.
Yeah. Okay.
First part, I want my legacy when my days are done coaching or when God takes me home. I said this to our team last night during halftime. When the players know their times are limited, as seniors especially.
James 4:14, life is nothing but a vapor.
Amen.
Just like that.
I want my legacy to be when people think of Coach Hines, that their mind goes to Christ.
Mm.
And I'm not comparing myself. I am, like I said, I'm a messed up sinner, but my heart and my intent every day is to serve others. So if I can coach in a way that my players look back and their families say, as passionate as I was about the game, I was even more passionate about the people, then I've done my job.
And that goes a long way, too, because, if someone's ever struggling with life, they always remember that one mentor that made some mission from their life. And, boom, Coach Hines. I might talk to him. I might lead them to Christianity, you feel me? Or just to lead them somewhere, lead them to a positive life. I understand the light you're trying to bring on everybody else.
I want that to be my legacy, that people hear my name and think of someone who is striving to be Christ-like. Mm-hmm. The second part of the question, Twitter's an interesting thing. That's how we connected. About a year and a half ago, I got reached out to by an AD in Johns Creek, Georgia. John Creek football. It's I don't know if it's 6A, 7A, but it's one of the highest. It's Lincoln, if you will. With all due respect to Lincoln, it's that type of program out in Georgia.
6A, that's pretty big.
And
that's pretty big.
He wasn't guaranteeing a job, but wanted to fly my wife and I out there, and said the head coach stepped down and wanted to. I would have been coaching strength and conditioning 3 classes a day with my freshman JV and varsity. Had the afternoons just do football stuff, getting more money than I would get paid here. And
really coach football. And it's different out there.
A lot of D1 athletes. Long story short, I told the gentleman, I said, give me a week to pray about it. I said, we moved. The only reason we moved from the program we built in New Hampshire was to be closer to our grandkids. Mm-hmm. I said, so I don't think it's the right time for me, but let me pray about it. And I said, I'll call you back next Friday. Called him back, and it wasn't the right time. My wife and I prayed about it. It didn't matter what the money was going to be. And it wasn't guaranteed anyway, so I'm not saying I'm that good. And I realize also that Coronado, I love us. We're Division IV San Diego. I have a losing season. They're not looking to push me out the door. And I realize that certain schools, the expectation is if you have a losing season, you're gone. So I called the gentleman back that AD that passed the next Friday. And he said, Coach, your ears must have been ringing. We were just talking about you. I got some great news. I said, well, let me stop you there. I appreciate it. I realize I'm closing a door that may never open again, but it's not the right time. And he had followed me long enough, so he knew my faith means everything to me. He respected that. I still talk to him on the regular. But my wife has asked me that too. She's like, do you ever think about applying for a D1 school? And yes and no. Yes and no. Yes, it would be phenomenal.
I can respect it.
You know, to look at that, but it goes back to my why of, if my why is to bless, serve, and empower as many people as I can, it doesn't matter if they're potentially D1 athletes or still don't know how to put the shoulder pads on.
So, do you think that what you did in New Hampshire probably made you feel like you were comfortable enough to be like, nah, I don't need to go do that because you already kind of did it in New Hampshire?
You proved yourself already.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of already did it, so you're not like itching to like to go build something, or you know, because you already kind of did it. Do you think that played a part in it?
No. That's a great question, but I'm still hungrier today after 26 years coaching to recreate that. To recreate that.
It just wasn't the time then.
Yeah, you know, and you have to and I love the question from the get-go about faith. You have to trust God's timing in all things, God's plan, in who we are as coaches and who we are being moldable in His hands, so we can be His hands and feet truly. Yeah, you know.
So I have one more question.
Go ahead.
So how do you balance? Because like my coach had this struggle too, because he was super competitive, always wanted to win too. It's just, how do you balance the faith, your faith and your religion, just that message, and then winning, you know, because sometimes it can kind of contradict each other, and you know, you got to kind of pick a side sometimes, or just find that balance. Like, how do you handle that? I mean, even I'm not the most religious coach, like, you know, my kids know how I am on the sideline and stuff, but you know, just how do you, like I said, it can kind of contradict, kind of like, you know, a quote unquote religious or spiritually based.
Spiritual, yeah.
You know,
it's a tough balance. I think it comes down to what your why is. If my why, if my desire for a legacy is to have people say, hey, he strived every day, to be Christ-like, then it makes it a lot easier. We don't have coaches meetings ever on Sundays. Now, that's frowned upon in a lot of programs, and how do you get things done? We manage it. You know, I ask our coaches to have all their tagging done by noon on Sunday. You guys can stay up till whatever hours you want or get up whenever you want, but have it done by then, and we can text each other and have little conversations. And I'll watch a lot of film on Sundays, but after we have our family meal, after we do stuff with the kids and the grandkids and all that stuff. It can be tough, but I think if your why is strong enough, the how, the what, the where, the when, all works out.
Gotcha. I feel it. And then just like closing remarks, I just want to say just thanks for being you, Coach. Like you don't realize like those videos and like the way you coach and you talk to us about it on Twitter, like that really means a lot to people. It means a lot to me. I've been watching your videos for years. You feel me? Like even like in college, I was like, man, like I wish I got coached by Coach Hines one day.
That truly means a lot. So what I'm going to do now is, when you guys win the state championship, I'm going to take a little pride in that too. I'm just kidding.
No, for real. No. I try to bring like some of the like the way you coach. Like I try to bring it to some of the the kids I coach now. You know what I mean? And like I never planned on coaching, and then I was like, man, if I ever got the chance, like if like for some reason, like I don't coach, like if Coach Hines gave me the call, like for sure, like I just want to be
trying to steal your brother. No, I won't do that. No, that truly means a lot. You know, I will tell you, and you guys can cut this or add this, but gosh, 3 or 4 years ago, we were playing El Cajon Valley, and we had destroyed them the year prior to this at our place. Yeah. Went to their place, and they beat the snot out of us. I think we threw 5 picks. They beat the snot out of us. And is it Coach Osborne? I forget.
I think he's the head coach.
Yeah, great dude. And I apologize if that's not his name, but
I think it is.
Great dude. But after the game, I went over, after we shook hands, jogged over to just say, hey, great game again. They played a lights out game. And he's like, Coach, you got to meet my wife. She's a huge fan of your stuff. I felt this big. I'm like, man, maybe I should get off social media. Stop posting those dang videos and just start coaching football.
It's a good message, man. It's a good message, and it's something, you know, it does help. People need to hear it. The kids need to hear it. So anytime you got something to say, man, don't hesitate to.
Please don't.
We listening.
I appreciate you guys.
Yeah. So, just thank you guys for tuning in for episode 9?
7, I think.
7?
Yeah, Bert was 6. It's 7.
Are you sure he was 6?
Episode 7.
Or whatever episode it is. Thank you guys for coming in. Yeah, Coach Hines here. Peace out.